the sense sphere. You must listen to our demands.
Yes, I'll explain all about the pit in a minute. Oh, yes, it's not the creature from the pit. You know, I'm obsessed with that click on notifications thing. But yeah, I'll reveal all. So let's get going. So, welcome to our detox hour, which always ends up being double that. I know. If you've read the thumbnail title, you'll know that actually we have a kind of summer vibe, Northern Hemisphere, of course, which is Doctor Who's not on. What's your go-to then? I mean, do you read an old classic? Do you have some memorabilia? You know, what do you do? Do you go do the convention circuit? What do you do to kind of satisfy your Doctor Who needs? Or do you actually have a break from it yourself? Um, I'm asking a real tricky question today, a cheeky one for Doctor Who fans. I am a purist and a completist of collections, but I am actually going to say, you know, when everybody always, I mean, you know, as clickbait, I should say to everybody in a thumbnail, I know where the missing episodes are, and the next missing episode's about to be released, you know, and everyone will tune in for half a minute. No, I'm going to ask the opposite. I'm going to say, which Doctor Who stories do we really wish were missing? that just weren't made, either because of their poor quality or they are outliers. They really don't help Doctor Who in any way. They were a mistake. Or they were a very weak imitation. You know, for example, I watch Android Invasion, which I can cope with, but it's clearly Terror of the Zygons. It's trying to emulate. You know, you see little Doctor Who twins. So the panelists will have many reasons, I'm sure. You know, I'm just going to be the chair. But yeah, have a look at that. So we've got that one. And then, of course, Doctor Who rivals. There must have been a time, like some spurned lover, when you were tempted by another channel's TV program. We'll discuss that. So settle in. Last night, we just did our review of Stolen Earth and Journey's End. So if you haven't seen it, check in. We do have a new item about Sutek. Check it out. Obviously, I've had an RTD week. He was in the interview with the SFX magazine. So there's my saloon, his RTD's broken Doctor Who antenna. I might actually show you a slide or two in today's show and see what the lads think. And of course, last Sunday, me and Hugh did the Real Exposed RTD, looking at what he said in that documentary before the season even aired. So please check them out if you haven't seen them. And there's the other pit, the other creature from the pit. Click on the like button and switch on the notifications, please. Give us a subscription. They've been going up again. I've been clocking. I know who you are. So please, I appreciate that. And you know how to find me now, I'm sure. You know the score. So shall we get them on? Shall we get them on and get talking like good old Doctor Who fans do? So here he is. Dwayne, how are you doing?
Yeah, good. G'day. Thanks for having me back. I'm ready for a good detoxing.
I know. I call it a detox, and some weeks I actually toxify the whole air with a certain news, but I'm going to try and detox. I'll try and be behaved. So there you go. Am I doing the right thing here? You know, a bit of mind robber in colour.
Well, I love this. This was the first Patrick Troughton story I ever saw, and I saw it screened on television around 1987. They put it on the ABC here in Australia, just randomly out of the blue. It just appeared, and that was the very first one they did. The cliffhanger to episode 1 with the TARDIS disintegrating just was amazing. So
Yeah.
this was my first taste of the Second Doctor on telly.
I've put this up because actually, Dwayne, I have problems slightly with Doctor Who fans are looking for different things, and that might be noticeable today when we have our chat. The Mind Robber is very surreal. The Celestial Toymaker is a bit out there. And I struggle with that type of Doctor Who, just like in The Next Generation, which I know you've watched, Q and stuff like that. I struggled with that aspect of sci-fi. I always do. So Mind Robber, I have a problem with slightly.
Okay.
You know, that's it. So I haven't watched it for ages. I mean, God, the fact that you've seen it so recently, well, I say recently, it wasn't aired ever again in England. Hello, Cybermat, how are you doing?
Hello, Brendan. Hello, Dwayne. Hello, chat.
Yeah,
Very excited for tonight's topics.
Now, for you, I've got a gigantic candle on its side. It looks like a candle to me, that gigantic Ice Warriors sonic gun. Now, the Ice Warriors, one of you two, just to give spoilers, everybody in the thread, the Ice Warriors was nearly going to be picked as one of those that we could wipe and not have in Doctor Who canon. So, could it be you, Cybermat?
If you mean by the Curse of Peladon, yeah, I think that was me.
I think Peladon can get a few mentions off a few people, actually. I know. We're going to have a fight
The
today as
monster
well.
of Peladon. It's all a bit of a blur for me. I struggle with both of them.
Well, this is going to be a bit of a fun debate. So, thread warm up. Tell us your choices and tell us if you want to argue with us about this. Death to the Daleks is one of my go-to comfort moments. That moment when the Daleks came out the ship at the end of episode 1, I remember sat with our mum. I was only about 4 or 5, and I was bricking it. I always remember that, and wasn't it exciting? Now, have you seen these photographs? Now, some of them are quite blurry, but it's the cast members and everything, and it's a Pertwee just to help you out. Anybody want to give it a try?
Time Monster.
Time Monster. Yeah.
Time Monster. I mean, look at this. Look at them all chilled in their rehearsals. And
Ingrid. How can you miss Ingrid?
Well, the Merker did not miss her at all. He really
That's right. That's right.
I love this John Pertwee with the orange trousers. It's like absolutely classic. It's very chilled, very, very chilled. There you go.
Man, that was Delgado at his best, spading with Ingrid Pitt.
Yeah. So there you go. There you go. Now, I don't like to cross over too much from the show last night, but there was a photograph I found, and it seemed to shock everybody. I'd never seen it before. I'm going to try it with you two lads. You know the 3 doctors and the gel guards? Have you seen this picture?
Yes, I have seen it. And I saw it for the first time on your stream yesterday.
I tell you what, Dwayne, it did really shock me. And you could see Gary's reaction and everybody's, because we've seen a lot of behind the scenes shots, haven't we? But I've never seen that one. And I never knew that's how they did that effect with the eye.
It was a new experience for me, that's for sure. And it was quite a nice surprise too.
Yeah, I mean, as I said last night, to be behind the scenes, what a joy that must be. I mean, please, can we all just have a school day trip to a Doctor Who behind the scenes? That would be fab. Now, you've been very busy, Dwayne. You'll be busy later as well, streaming away. But how's it going with the convention organisation for Down Under?
Well, the organisation's going fine. We have got Fraser and Katie joining us for some events next month. Only is it just over 2 weeks away?
Wow.
Before Fraser's first appearance in Sydney. And then he's in Melbourne, Brisbane. Brisbane's Katie's there as well. And then Katie's over in Adelaide. So that'll be September. And then we've got Sylvester McCoy in Melbourne, Adelaide, Hobart, Brisbane, and Sydney in November. And joining him in Melbourne and Adelaide at the moment is Janet Fielding. So that's all going well. Very, very exciting.
Oh, and Cybermat, you've signed up, haven't you?
I'm signed up for Sylvester McCoy, and yeah, very excited.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I'm jealous. I am really jealous. So, well, as I say, good luck with that, and I'll keep advertising it here, of course.
Thank you.
So, I saw this. Somebody did join this up. Look at that. You've got the Empire of Death moment with Time Lash. I quite like this. Towing Colin Baker through the vortex.
That's
Oh,
funny.
dear.
Oh well, you have to laugh, don't you? I
I
mean,
got to say, I've got a soft spot for Time Lash. I do. It's one of those guilty pleasures that I go to from time to time. I really enjoy the design of the Borat. Actually, there are so many
yes.
funny moments throughout with some of the set design. You've got Paul Darrow's performance, which is so over the top. It just has you rolling in stitches at times. But yeah, so it does. I will go to Time Lash before Empire of Death. Let me tell you.
Yep.
I,
I'm with you on that one.
I think the Time Lash bit, yes. I think the layer and the Borad, as in as the creature, fab. Yeah.
And the voice, that guy's voice is so
yeah.
sinister.
Mustacosine.
It just lost it with the lighting. Of course, classic 80s Who sometimes too much lighting. It was always the problem. Too much lighting. So in a time when Doctor Who's getting bashed about and criticized and it's all getting very toxic and the TARDIS, you just get that vibe that we're under. I mean, yeah. We've got to go to a happier place and get thinking. Do you know what? When you look at some of the Doctor quotes, there's some fantastic stuff out there. You could use them in lessons. In fact, I have used them in lessons. I have used them in assemblies. But you look at some of them. They really are great out there quotes. They're very powerful and they're very stupid. Have one thing in common: they don't alter their views to fit the facts. They alter the facts to fit the views, which can be uncomfortable if you happen to be one of the facts that needs altering. I don't know. There's something about Doctor Who that does this to me. I don't know. Have you got quotes where you go, oh, I love that bit when the Doctor says whatever?
I was actually playing around. I dug into my Deadly Assassin Target novel the other week after one of the shows that you guys were looking at it, just to see how close it was to the script. And I was just, I love the line, actually Barusa, where he gives the Doctor a dressing down and says, you'll never amount to anything in the universe while you have this propensity for vulgar facetiousness. I just love that.
Yeah, and look, and I always said to the kids in my English classrooms, I mean, I ended up an English teacher, but I said, but I learned all my posh words, believe it or not, I felt like, in all the Target books, which were basically the scripts, of course, from Doctor Who. I mean, oh God, I remember insubordination, learning. That was a very long word for me when I was 6. Insubordination, whoa, and genocide, of course, and all that sort of stuff.
Megalomaniac was my word that I learned.
Yeah, I mean, tachyonics. Look at that. I'm finishing off Leisure Hive now, but tachyonics. What the hell? Look at Logopolis, which might get a mention tonight, with the CVE, the charged vacuum embointment. I mean, when you read that book, I was going, who coped with Warrior's Gate?
Yeah, well, and I liked, with the whole entropy stuff.
Yeah.
The concept of entropy.
And time eddies. I used eddies in a lot of my writing when I was a kid. When I learned the word eddy was a little whirlpool, I was aware with it. Time eddies were everywhere in my world. So, yeah. So, here we go, folks. Go on, Drain. Sorry.
I was just going to say on lines that the Doctor says, we criticize the current Doctor for being too human at times, but there's some human moments in Classic Who in particular that I really enjoy, and the one that sticks out to me is when Victoria was feeling sad. She was missing her dad, in the Tomb of the Cybermen, and she and the Doctor are just sitting there, and he's just talking to her about his family and how he brings them to life in his mind, and they're always there, even if he's not physically with them, and is comforting to her that way. That's a really touching scene. It's a mark of the second Doctor that's You know, he has that serious side to and caring side to him as well.
Yes, he has that lovely voice. He has a great way of talking, Troughton, but given those lines as well, very fatherly, caring, and thoughtful. And I know John Yulden, who was in the thread, he might still be there. He's talked to me about that quote as well. So it obviously works for people. But yeah, I understand. Well, I understand why, of course. So I've called this item the pit, which is which stories in Doctor Who do we think really we don't miss? And if they were missing or erased or burnt, not saved from the, scrap heap like the Daleks were those years ago, what could we chuck in? So we're going to have a nice little juicy item here. So in the thread, get going, and we're going to visit you in a minute. Which stories? Come on, let's be honest. Not every Doctor Who story will you watch again. Come on, tell the truth. Let go, detoxify. So here we go. So here's my little cheeky item. Oh God, just a drama, I mean, I always used to walk into a room as a teacher with music. No, I didn't. Right, okay then. So let's see what we get here. So I went and looked at I mean, that's the classic thing. Let's chuck these spools in the bin. Right. If you look at this, I was looking at various kind of forums like Doctor Who Monthly, and they do surveys and everything. And when I was on another stream, we used to use this one. So it's not right up to date with season 1 and everything. So go with it, please, folks. But it just gives us a guide. And you can see there that in 241st place was the twin dilemma. You've got Fear Her, Time in the Rani, Time Lash, Time Flights. I won't read too much more, but I just want to show the thread and the lads where you could go with this. So we might as well just get talking, and we can push back on each other a little bit and test it out. So Cybermat, I'll give you first privilege. Come on then, let's chuck something in the pit that doesn't need to be seen again. It wasn't good Doctor Who. It was embarrassing Doctor Who. It wasn't Doctor Who. Go on then, pick one.
Well, one that's very topical at the moment, and my instant who cares was the Fear Her episode that got everyone was talking about in the last couple of weeks. I was like, yep, no problem with that being burned in the archive.
So go on, you explain why, because I know the lad right next to you on the panel there it would have another thing to say about Fear Her. So go on then, you need to sell it because it might be challenged.
No, I just it was one that I just felt it felt very kiddie at the time for me, and that was Mr. Squiggle Monster, I think, and I was. It was one that I've very rarely gone back to rewatch, and for me, the measure of Doctor Who is how many times I rewatch it before the next episode next week, and it's one that I remember at the time. Even more than Love and Monsters. I actually really like Love and Monsters now, but I remember at the time being put out by it. But Fear Her's, no, that's one I'm happy to.
Well, we'll chew the fat and loads of them. We'll just kind of have, we'll throw in some concise sound bites out at the most. So I'll quickly say with Fear Her that I don't think I'll ever watch it again. I struggle, Dwayne, with the very suburban Doctor Who stories that just feel as though it's just normal day Earth, and Fear Her was one of them to me, as well as other things. So I'm kind of more in Cybermat's camp. Now, I don't think you are you?
No, I've never really understood why it's so despised. I think as a science fiction concept, the idea of that alien tapping into the girl's emotions and is a very good science fiction concept. And the way it manifests itself is quite good. And I like the actress who plays the mum. She's always nice to look at too. So that's always that always helps me. But yeah, I've always struggled a little bit with the it's the first one a lot of people go to get rid of.
Yeah,
the 10th Doctor, and
and maybe we'll have to investigate that one day a little bit more. Right. Okay, I'm just going to say hello to the thread. I made another kind of graphic last night because I'm always having to remind my panelists on the bigger panels, we've got to remember that get the thread read or we're dead. So basically, I'm going to keep an eye on that because they have good ideas, don't they? Anyway, so let's have a look. Let's have a look. Rob Fellows. Trouble is, if I make a list of classic that I didn't mind going missing, then I then want to go and watch them again to be sure. Well, that's very careful of you. We can be cheeky today, Rob. Don't worry. I mean, I won't hold you to it. We might ditch something and then go, oops. Cliff Maxwell, I know it's early. I chucked Time Lash even before Twin Dilemma, and yet we just heard a bit of loving from Time Lash. Cliff, come on, let's have an argument. Boomer Doug, good to see you. I wouldn't miss the whole Jodie era. Sorry, it's how I feel. That's a big
Got to
bin.
pick one. Got to pick one.
Yeah. Oh gosh,
he's just gone straight for the
There's
season.
the challenge.
box.
Pick one.
Oh, I tell you what, he'd have been lethal in the 70s, in the 70s, in the Doctor Who archives. We'd never have kept the Daleks. He'd have just burnt everything with this first match. Peter's with you though. Time Lash has its charm, but he also says dump for your hair. David,
you can't beat
he says.
I would waste your time with the London one.
Crimplin de Bloom, I loved the Twin Dilemma. Please don't throw it in the pit. Well, go and defend it, mate, because you can see it's on that list. And Love and Monsters, says Cliff. Yes, the Absorbalov and the pavement moment at the end, which everybody finds a little bit problematic, even if you want to say it's funny.
No, I love it. That's best. That's
Do
the
you
best
love
part.
it? So, Space
my
Museum.
question on Love and Monsters. Love and Monsters. Why is that not okay to be like we've got a classic like The Romans that a lot of people love, which is pure comedy.
Yeah.
That from start to finish. But Love and Monsters is because it's comedy. That's why we've got to not like it. I see it in a very similar vein to The Romans, actually, in that it's there purely for laughs.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got the joke on Love and Monsters the more I watched it. I really initially I remember on first watch going, something didn't gel with me as an episode, but I gave it plenty of rewatches, and the more I watched it, the more I really enjoyed it.
Well, let's have a look.
As long as it didn't hurt your eczema.
Yeah, the eczema.
I'm going to throw in now a whole tranche of Doctor Who episodes here, a bit like we had with the Jodie era. I could bin quite quickly the Christmas episodes, quite a lot of them. And you see some of them in this list, like at 229, The Doctor, The Widow, and the Wardrobe. I mean, really, and the Mr. Was it Mr. Mysterio? That was why did we have that one? I just find sometimes the Doctor Who Christmas special is a filler. And I wouldn't say Voyage of the Damned. That worked, of course. And good old Aussie Kylie Minogue there. The Christmas Invasion, I applaud. I actually enjoyed that, and I thought it was a proper good Doctor Who story. But
I felt it took too long for David Tennant to turn up.
Yeah, which is why Disney, I think, had a word this time and said, you in a Church and Ruby Road, you need to get Shooty in faster. Get him in a gay nightclub. No, something like that. Does anyone buy into this? Let's get rid of some of the Christmas episodes because they are just sparkly fillers.
Yeah, I'm probably with you on the window, Doctor Widow and the Wardrobe. Although the what was the other one that you said? I actually didn't mind that one. What was it? I don't know why Doctor Mysterio gets so much hate. I kind of have a soft spot for them for that.
I can't
with the
even
zipper heads and all that.
I can't really remember the plot. This is what I mean. I mean, look, right now the thread is really going for it now. So, Dwayne, what do you reckon to some of these? Julian Gabriel Clark. I find In the Forest of the Night frustrating. It's similar in spirit to Fear Her, but it's all very well acted.
Well, Brendan, I gave you a list of my picks for throwing out for every single Doctor right through, and this was my 12th Doctor story. I think it is not Doctor Who in the slightest. I don't know what it is, but it is not Doctor Who. It's and it's frustrating me even just to think about it. It was the most frustrating episode of that season, and the whole 12th Doctor era, actually. So if anyone can explain to me what that's all about and how it relates to Doctor Who in any way, have a go, because I can't see it at all. And I think it's a very, very silly episode.
Can I? Right, I'm going to say this one instinctively.
Is that the one with the moon as an egg?
Oh,
No, that's Kill the Moon.
That's a Kill the Moon.
This is the one where
That's
the
the same.
forest suddenly decides to heal the earth or something.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it burn all this the greenery sacrifices itself to save the planet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I just instinctively do one now? This is without thinking. This is gut instinct, and a lot of Doctor Who fans have the same gut instinct. We try to watch the Web Planet, and me and my partner have got to. I think we got to episode 2, and now we haven't returned back to it. And I love the book, and of course, I read the book first. I think I've watched the Red Planet once on video. I just have to force myself. I find it so much, and yet it's very imaginative, very creative. So I don't want to put it in the pit, but actually, there's something about it that just doesn't make me want to watch it. So maybe that should put it in the pit. Do you think?
Well, possibly. Well, it's so groundbreaking in what it's trying to do. I think that's what gives it a tick from me. But if it's a shame that season's been released on Blu-ray, because if only as one of the special effects they could turn down the Zabi noise that's constantly running through every episode, I think that ends up grating on me after a while.
Yeah.
That sound is just very, very irritating at that level. And then by the time we get to the end and they've used up all the budget, we've got the Optera who are introduced in those little sack race outfits. That's a little bit. Well, you know, I'm a fan of Invasion of the Dinosaurs, so who am I to talk about poor special effects? But I can understand why it's so hard to get through. It's one you've really got to be in the mood to watch. You sort of have to know what you're in for, and you definitely, depending on your mood, you have to watch it one episode at a time.
Yeah, and even that, yeah. Cliff, a lot of these are either overly long, Web of Fear, have better stories around them, Underworld, Kin's Demons, or suffer from style shifts, Time and Arani. Let's just find a few others, and then I'm going to use...
I just watched Underworld, so I just watched Underworld in the last couple of days, and it is probably, no pun intended, the most underrated story of the 4th Doctor era, in my opinion. It's really good.
Now, I've just watched Underworld, Dwayne, and I was not quite struggling as much as I would with Web Planet, but it's got a story. I can't knock that. It's got a story and everything, but right, we might as well out it now, Dwayne. We were talking about Image of the Fendal, weren't we?
Yeah, that's my least favorite of the season.
Yeah, which again, Doctor Who fans, I know it's one of those, but I'm more with Dwayne on this one, because it has. If you were saying what would make a good Doctor Who, it has all the ingredients, but for some reason the package just doesn't deliver like Horror Fan Rock does.
Absolutely not. And I try and watch it because it has that sort of black magic mystique about it, and it's got Wanda Ventham in it. So I always enjoy watching her. And it's got Louise Jameson, of course. I love watching her too.
Yeah.
Are you getting a theme here with me tonight? But I just find it so slow paced and boring. There's no action, and then there's real darkness at the end with the suicide. I find that really confronting, that suicide scene at the end where the Doctor actually aids in it. So you know, if Mary Whitehouse, I don't recall Mary Whitehouse ever talking about that, but boy, if she spotted that, she would have got it off a tree, I would have thought.
I love it for all those reasons. I love Dr. Fendelman and Maxie.
Mind you,
I love the characters.
And Leaky the dog that finds the dead body.
dog.
Mind you, while the thread are deciding who they're going to go with on this one, because we're all over the shop, aren't we? So SG, for example, I think is a great story. And of course, this is the beauty of it. I always try and imagine Sensefree. We're in a pub and we don't agree. Cliff Maxwell, for example, Fendal is brilliant. No way you can't like it. Well, two of us don't.
Sorry, Cliff. I don't.
But we agree that it's got all the
There's something wrong
ingredients.
with him, Cliff, isn't there?
Underworld is steeped in the politics that everyone forgets has always been in there. Look, you see, this is it. We're going to be all over the shop. My Roku, the quest is the quest. I have to say, they said that too many times. I struggled with it. Right. Okay. So
what's
let's
the politics in Underworld? I don't get what the politics are. There's obviously referencing mythology.
Yeah.
But what are the politics?
Yeah.
It went over my head.
Come back to us. So here's now.
Politics.
When you're judging on where you think, well, Brendan's on the money, Dwayne's on the money, Dan's on the money, and you know which camp you're in, right? Let's do the dirty on Dan, because he did pick this one. So he picked Logopolis.
That is outrageous.
Even with Sutex.
Well, I feel better now after bloody image of the Fendel went onto the bus.
I wonder what Sutex block transfer computations are exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
What are they on the notepad there?
Yeah, what are your vital statistics, Sutex? But so the Watcher, all those concepts. Come on, you're gonna have to defend yourself, Cybermat here.
Well, look, I picked this not because I hate the story. I was toying your question around potentially binning an episode. I was thinking to myself, what an impact. Imagine how legendary this story would be if it had gone missing in the archive and we never, we didn't see it again, and we never, could never go back and watch it. Imagine Tom's last story missing. And because I really like this story, actually. I just wanted to rage bait you guys.
Yeah, we've been baited. We've been clickbaited, honestly. So let's go to another one. And this one's mine. Don't worry, we'll get a bit of everybody. The Mutants. The book. No, not really.
How good is the Watcher, though, as a concept compared to, say, By Generation?
Well, no, they're very true. But no, so what do you reckon, Dwayne? I think the Mutants I could put in the pit,
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I love the Mutants but I'm a fan of the weirder stuff, like the music in that is done by Tristram Carey. It's his only Pertwee soundtrack, and it gives it a different feel, I think, to it. Can you imagine if Dudley Simpson did the music to it? It'd be a totally different story.
Yeah.
I think. So it has that weirdness about it. That is it because you think it's boring, or the concepts are
sometimes, yeah. I'm not going political or anything. I think it just doesn't, it doesn't grab me. And as a Doctor Who fan, like all of us are, why is it not grabbing me? Why is Web Planet not grabbing me to watch back? Why is it not getting me? So the Mutants, it's been on my shelf as a book. I've tried. I don't know if I've even got all the way through the Mutants. It just doesn't do anything for me. So all I can say is it just doesn't work. And I always blur it with Colony in Space. Don't ask me why, but Mutants and Colony in Space, there's a few of them in that era that just seem to blur together in my kind of experience. So yeah,
I think it has a special place in my heart because the Target book was a hardcover book that I always used to borrow from the library, and it had a really nice cover with the mutant on the front. And so that has a place in my heart because of that memory as a kid reading the book.
Now, before I jump anywhere else, Julian Gabriel Clark is saying, why have none of us mentioned Black Orchid?
Because it's fantastic. That's why.
Yeah, it's awesome. What's wrong with it? Why would you get rid of that?
I mean, Julian, are you being cheeky, or are you saying it doesn't really fit as a Doctor Who? It's not my favourite, I have to say.
I think he's an Adric hater.
Yeah, I mean, the historicals, I'm glad I wasn't born during some of the periods with William Hartnell. I don't know if I really do like the historicals, although actually watching the Hartnell ones, they are good. But I'm not really, I don't know. I like escapism. Get me off the planet Earth, please. Now the Armageddon factor. That's always a divider with fandom, isn't it?
Yeah,
That's
I can
like
understand why
Guardians.
people would pick that one. It's a tricky one to put down into the pit, because it has the climax of the key to time, obviously, but it is quite slow in the middle. Got a great first couple of episodes, and when Drax turns up, that's pretty good too. But yeah, I can.
Yeah, in the shadow.
It is a bit, the shadow, and it is quite slow in the middle, that one.
So let's go to this one then. Oh God, Dan, it's you again. What the hell is going on?
Oh man, I struggle with Monster of Peladon. I struggle with both the Peladon stories. I don't think I've watched them.
Right, if
fully.
I'm going to be a proper compare now. You can't pit both of them. So which of the two would you pit?
Aren't they just? I feel like it's a rehash, but the second one's I think the worst.
Do you?
It's even more boring than the first one. And
Ah.
I'm surprised RTD hasn't brought back Alpha Centauri. It's
as
Because
the
Moffat
news,
already did.
as the
Did he?
trans character.
Yeah,
So
Empress of Mars. She's in the final scenes.
yeah,
he needs to come with a health warning. If
we actually snapped on this one, Dan, because I chose the Monster of Peladon for my third Doctor pick. I am different to you though, in that I love Curse of Peladon. It's one of my favorite stories of the third Doctor era.
is Curse the one with the
there's a totally
Draconians? Or the Ice Warriors?
No, that's Frontier. Well, it's got
Oh,
Ice
I'm
Warrior.
getting it mixed
Yeah.
up.
Yeah, you're thinking Frontier in Space, are you?
No. Ice Warriors was Curse, wasn't it? Curse of Peladon.
Ice Warriors were in both.
Yeah.
Okay.
The Ice Warriors
but they were the goodies in Curse of Peladon.
Yeah.
What makes Curse of Peladon different, I think, is I don't know whether I don't know the story behind it, but it looks totally different filmic wise. Like it looks like it's shot on film, as opposed to Monster of Peladon looks very video, and I don't think it works. There's also that classic scene in Monster of Peladon where Terry Walsh is doing fight scenes as the third Doctor, and he's like fully there with his face on screen and everything, and he's throwing people over his shoulder. So that was probably the worst bit of stunt filming that I've seen in the history of Doctor Who. And yeah, I just find it boring as well. Like it doesn't do anything for me, that story.
You see,
the princess and all that boring.
Well, the Monster of Peladon is a go-to. When I say go-to, as a kid, I have fantastic memories of watching Monster of Peladon, but not Curse. I saw Curse later. Now the Monster of Peladon, well, the refinery and that the imagery there and all, and the ghostly apparitions, all that is right up my street. Where I agree with you two lads, though, is you've just mentioned the fight scene in Monster of Peladon. There was a bit of repetition from Grun fighting in Curse, and you thought, oh, we're not doing the same again, are we? We're going to have another fight scene. It needed to be different and not just, I know it's the same culture and everything, but I think it needed to be done differently there. I liked a few of the characters in Monster of Peladon. I didn't mind Thalura as Queen. At least she wasn't trying to date anybody like in the Troughton episode of Curse, where Joe Grant and him were, there was something going on. I could see John Pertwee getting upset. JWC Reviews is talking about Armageddon Factor, very anticlimactic, and as agrees with you that Drax was probably with only good things in it. A lot of people are loving the Black Orchid. Let's kill Hitler. Let's get that in the pit, says Rob Fellows.
Totally disagree with that.
Yeah, I disagree too. That's a good episode. I enjoyed it.
That's a go-to for me for that season.
Yeah.
That episode. I'll pick that one out to watch on its own.
Yeah. So JWC Reviews, lovely to see you. Monster of Peladon's too long. Curse is better because it's short, and Hepish was a better antagonist than Eckersley. Also, the miners had crap haircuts. Yes, it changed, didn't it? I agree. I nearly said that a minute ago about the haircuts. Yeah.
That's the fuzzy.
Yeah, we didn't have the miners in the Curse of Peladon, did we? So it was more.
Yeah, it was just
Monster of Peladon, that one.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Um,
guys. The chat's talking about Alpha Centauri coming back in Capaldi. I feel like I must have had a stroke. I can't recall.
It was
when
just
did
at the
that
end.
happen.
Empress of Mars.
Yeah, it was just at the end, though, wasn't it? That's what you were saying.
It was in the Empress of Mars. Do you remember that with the
Mm.
Yeah.
with the British soldiers on the moon on Mars?
Yeah. I need to go back and rewatch it.
Right at the end. It's only a cameo. It's
Okay.
only like 10 seconds.
Okay, let's change the. Aha! Who mentioned the Dominators?
Oh, that was me. Very, very hard to pick any story out of the Troughton era because I love them all, but I just felt that I picked the weakest one for me personally. I struggle getting through that one. I love the Quarks, love the idea of the Dominators. I just find myself being very bored throughout that one, as opposed to the Mind Robber, which was coming next, which I always love and it's a go-to. But and I'll still go and watch the Dominators, but it's I had to pick one for the Second Doctor, and that was just my pick.
Well, I always go on. I can't help myself. I was when I was taken by my dad to Longleat 83 for the one day. The Dominators was on in the big marquee, and it's 5 episodes, as
Oh,
you
wow.
know. And
Yep.
and I remember, I can't remember, I keep changing my age. I was about 12 or 13, wasn't I? And you're going, right, there's the merchandise tent, there's the panels with Troughton and everybody, and then there's the Dominators. And in this period, unlike some of you lucky Aussies, we weren't seeing any of this stuff. And I thought, 5 episodes, how can I say to Dad, we've driven all the way down to the other end of the country to watch 5 episodes of a black and white story, and then I'll have missed all of Longleat. Now, you can imagine now, today, if I said I went to Longleat and just sat in a tent watching Dominators, when later on it is on video, thank God I didn't do that. And actually knowing what the Dominators is like, I agree with Dwayne. I'm glad I didn't do that, because can you imagine if I did that? And yet in the end, it all ends up on TV and everything, and I'll have missed the Longleat experience. But yes, the Quarks are standout, and obviously the paper knew this, so you've got a nice extract there. The Quarks, we're always looking for something interesting in Doctor Who. We've had some amazing robots. I thought in Wild Blue Yonder, what a shame that Jimbo wasn't used better. It was a lovely little robot, I thought.
Yeah. The only problem with the Quarks, I find them hard to understand when they're speaking.
Yes.
If their voices were just a little bit different, that might make it easier. The Big Finish has done some Quark stories, which is always interesting. So yeah, they've done a few.
I'll have to talk to you to maybe get me into, because I know I'm very light touch Big Finish. I just cruise the surface now and again, but yeah,
I just find they're a crap monster. I don't know what they're good for. They don't even have hands.
Well,
as their heads, they're very sci-fi. Those heads, and there was a book that had all the technical specifications of different monsters. What book was that?
I might have it over there.
What technical No, it wasn't the technical manual. It was something
Probably
John
is,
Nathan Turner did that had.
I think you're right. I think there is a.
Yeah.
There's white robots and the Quarks and here we go.
Well, I mean, I've got to put this.
We all know this one, don't we?
Yeah, I mean, I had to put it up.
Delete that one.
I've got to get it out there, otherwise people are going to say you're not even a proper Doctor Who fan if you don't blooming know what we're all thinking. It was the hairdo that was. But to be honest, and I try and be as fair as I can, just the way I see it. I really had problems with this and the green hair period. Remember, there was let's see if I've got it here. There you go, the green hair, all this stuff, and is it Ryan sucking his thumb and all that stuff? But if you look at
it's so bad that it's become good.
Oh, but if you look at that heads bit, and then you look at the shoulder in Rogue, they had all that Bridgerton gear on, and then they had the big. And that one with the big kind of beard coming out here, I just thought, sorry, this is Doctor Who looking silly, and to me this visually doesn't work as Doctor Who. It just somehow doesn't work. And I will say, the lads mentioned Peladon. If I just put a colour strip down that hair, yes, it gets a bit Peladonian, and there did look stupid too. So I'm fair, classic and new Who. I'm trying to be fair. Oh, here's one. David Harding, Silver Nemesis, up for consideration. The Cybermen are just there to be fodder.
No, the Cybermen are just there to be silver because it's the silver anniversary. You get it? Do you get it? Yeah.
Yeah, we
But
get
they're
it.
excellent.
Excellent. I've never watched it again, Paul Richards, Orphan 55. I should maybe have a look. I like to be fair, but oh god.
It is
Can I
so
make a
bad
confession?
that you
Go on.
About Orphan 55 is
You
the
love
fact that it did get me in to start with. Like the first 10 or 15 minutes of it are quite good, but it falls away worse than any Doctor Who episode that I think I've ever seen in my life. It started off looking really good, but then boy, it went off a cliff real quick. It's already halfway in the pit. We may as well just push it further in.
Benny.
Right, so I'm gonna really put pressure on you now, lads, because we're gonna change item in a minute just to keep it kind of tasty. So you don't have to pick off this list. It's just to kind of it's inspire you. So you've listed what you've listed already, and I appreciate Dwayne give me one from each Doctor. These are the bottom ones that most of fandom did pick at a certain time. Okay, you can ditch one
but
more.
this has got to be before like season 11, 12, 13, 14, 15.
Oh, I've got it goes up to a fair few, but anyway, you can pick anything. This is just to kind of inspire you. So one pick, Dwayne, that we haven't mentioned yet that you think should go in the pit.
Let's go for an 11th Doctor one that I picked. Journey to the Center of the TARDIS. I was very excited to be able to actually explore the TARDIS because no one's really done that. Yeah. They've got this beautiful, particularly in the most recent season, I saw that beautiful new big white console room, and I thought, well, maybe they're going to do some, stories in the TARDIS. Well, there was a chance to do it. The title even said they were going to go there, and it was just the biggest disappointment. It was just, I don't even understand what went on really in that story. It was silly.
There you go, a bit of advertising for you there, Dwayne. Anyone who hasn't heard Dwayne's reading of An Unearthly Child really should. Well, it's sirensofaudio.com, and of course, he was telling it. You were talking about that last week, weren't you?
Yeah, you'll find that on the YouTube channel. It's the most watched YouTube video, that one, which surprises me. But people really like my old woman. They say, "Oh boy, you sound just like her." So don't know what I'm doing right there, but
I mean, Dan, there's a few on that list I could pick quite quick. Come on, we've just had the Underwater Menace, out again. What the hell was going on with Underwater Menace? I can't pick the Sensorites because we're the Sensphere. Sorry, that's not allowed.
Sorry, are we throwing these in the pit or are we trying to save them?
Well, come on. The Whoniverse is getting bigger all the time, and to be honest, we have to get rid of the weak and the rubbish. I'm turning into a Dalek now. This is terrible. So, Dan, I'm tempted to throw in stuff like Fort of Doomsday. I remember doing an audio recording of it, and to be honest, when they have all the cultural dances and stuff, and I'm thinking, oh, for God's sake, it's not a good listen to an audio recording. You just go, all right, Aboriginals are all dancing now, then we've got this. Come on, because of course all the action is Peter Davison and Tegan looking at each other and people leaving doors and that.
I'll light up Fawn to Doomsday. Yeah, chuck that in the pit.
Yeah, get rid of that. We're getting quite cavalier now. We're warming up.
Delta and the Bannerman needs to be elevated to its heights. It should be out of there. It should be taken right out of the pit.
Right, Dan. Sorry, Dwayne, I'm going to do one. I was reading earlier. This was a fan said this. So I'm not even going off this. Right, are you ready for this one? Let's pit Edge of Destruction. Because people said it was an outlier to Doctor Who. It was obviously trying out new formats, where the show could go. This little two-parter, but I saw some people saying that should be pitted.
That's ridiculous. That's such an important story because it cements the relationship between the Doctor and Barbara in particular. Where she gets to tell him off and he has to go crawling back to her and apologizing, and it's turning that Doctor into more of a caring character than he was in those first episodes. So it's very important.
Well,
not to mention it helps amortize the cost of the TARDIS set across the season.
Yeah, before they get rid of half of it. Yeah, SG agrees with you anyway. David Harding does as well. I'm just saying what I read, to be controversial. So you can see at 201, we've mentioned Journey to the Center of the Earth. We never mentioned the gunfighters and the Doctor having tooth decay. And the singing by Linda Barron.
No,
I
keeping
can
that
lose the crotons.
that stays.
Which one?
The gunfighters, says Dwayne.
Yeah,
And
keep that.
I
like that.
have to have Creature from the Pit because I just love it as a kind of one of my slides that I use all the time. I just love that creature. I love the Wolfweeds. I love all that. I've got the mutants there. I've already listed. Are you always surprised that the Daleks in Manhattan and the evolution of the Daleks is always considered so low down in fandom?
Yeah, that's I think that stands up better these days.
It didn't quite work, did it? The hybrid thing, I thought, oh, stop it. I get sick of tampering. We were doing our show last night with Stolen Earth.
Very phallic,
Just stop.
phallic hybrid there.
Oh, just stop tampering with things. Ugh. Now, I always get smugglers and savages mixed up. I've listened to them on audio, blah, blah, blah. They always kind of blur in my head. I know I can't get Invasion of Time in the pit because you've mentioned before you love that. The Beast Below, though, what was that about?
Is that the Space Whale one?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I struggle with that one a bit, but it is Doctor Who though.
Right.
I've enjoyed that more on rewatches. So you go back to that one, and it stands up better
Okay.
than first watch. Sometimes I do that. That's one of them.
Yeah, I think I better have a little look then. Now, the other question I had for the lads, and it's another one, I'm pretending it's Northern Hemisphere summer, apparently. When Doctor Who's not on the TV and ITV or, in Australia, Channel 9 or 7 or 10 will put on other shows and all the rest of it, when the ABC, mind you had repeats, didn't you? But what shows tempted you away from Doctor Who for a while? They nearly won your love, I'll just show one or two of mine and see what the lads say and see what the thread says, because I am a Doctor Who fan. I am, and so is Dwayne and so is Dan. But, we have to acknowledge we're human and we might have been tempted. Now, in the early 70s, the Planet of the Apes TV series, obviously with it being American, a bit more, it just seemed... lavish sets and everything, and it was gripping and it was blooming scary. Those apes were scary. But it didn't have a TARDIS. It didn't have that kind of quirkiness. I love the Doctor character. That's why I wish we'd get the Doctor character back now, please, RTD. That's missing from this. I like sci-fi, but it's not the same. So, Planet of the Apes is one of them. I'll just show you some examples and see what the lads say. The Tamura people, obviously I could see what Dudley Simpson was doing with the music. That was so tempting, wasn't it? But it was on at tea time on ITV. I just like that speaking thing that lit up on the lettering. Buck Rogers in the 25th century, Tweaky. It was those little bits, really. There was something about it that didn't grab me totally. But I obviously played around to think, was it worth it? Blake 7 did. I felt a bit more grown up suddenly because Doctor Who was on at tea time Saturday and Blake 7 was on at about 7 p.m. Tuesday night or whatever. And you felt like older. And it did seem more adult. It was a bit like the Torchwood to Doctor Who sort of thing. But it didn't keep me going for the 4 series. Sorry, Cyberman, it didn't. And just before, I'll just shut up in a minute, we had the Fantastic Journey. Now, that got me on Saturday nights in the 70s. That really almost got me. But because it was a mini series, it was never going to win me over forever, of course. But I did like the Fantastic Journey. So those are just a few of the temptations I had, Dwayne. What about you?
I had a few different temptations, and you mentioned the Tomorrow People. That was one that they used to show in the mornings on weekdays at about 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning. So I watched an episode of the Tomorrow People before I went to school. So that was really incredible. I got to watch a lot of Tomorrow People there. I bought the DVD box set now, and it's funny listening to the commentaries because they really make fun of it, and it's good for a laugh. But particularly probably the season 2, 3, and 4, maybe not season 1 so much
Yeah.
of the Tomorrow People. They were the ones that really got me in, and then it got quite silly towards the end as well. But Big Finish did a good job of bringing the original cast back for the Tomorrow People and doing a few series of that way back when they had the license 20 years ago. So that was really good. Space 1999 was another one that I used to love, but they showed it at 11 o'clock in the morning. So I would try and pretend to be sick so I could stay from school so I could watch Space 1999. And they showed that on Channel 7, I recall. And what's some other ones? Probably another one in the 80s was maybe Chocky. I don't know if you remember Chocky. That's a kids' science fiction show, but that was based on the John Wyndham book. And that had some really eerie. That had a really eerie theme tune. Do you remember that, Dan? You might be a bit
I
young for that.
don't remember that at all. Yeah, that's
yeah. I don't know if anyone in the chat remembers Chocky, but I loved watching that show as well. There was a couple of sequels to it too.
Well, there's a few interesting choices. I'll just bring some of them up. We've got all the way back to The Prisoner. So we've got, let me just set this out first of all, just to be fair. So
Love
Paul
The
Richards
Prisoner.
is The Prisoner, which do you know what, Paul? I've still not watched. I mean, come on, this is crazy, isn't it? Graham Dawson says Time Slip. David Harding agrees with the Space 1990. I do as well. I've got the toys and everything. Loved it. Yeah. I mean, come on, Jerry Anderson can't do anything wrong, really. Alphabet Cat says, because of the Doctor Who connection, Chris Boucher, Robert Holmes, and Terry Nation. I think you're talking about Blake Seven, aren't you? Peter Harrington is like me. We've said this before, Peter, haven't we? I remember The Fantastic Journey. Was it Bermuda Triangle and time travel? Yeah. That got me. JWC reviews. I remember that bloke Varian. Oh, well, you've remembered the name. You've done better than me. The Twilight Zone says Choluli. Chris, Land of the Giants. Now, why does that not register in my brain? I've heard the title.
American show.
like Planet of the Giants and
Crimpling agrees the Fantastic Journey was great at the time. Wasn't the summer replacement for Doctor Who in 1978? It was on, yes, because it was on BBC One. So it was Doctor Who off, Fantastic Journey on. But of course, it's what's winning your affections. And of course, sometimes the American money, and it looks a bit more polished, and it just looks a bit bigger. And you know, the trouble
when
is,
was V? Do you guys remember V, the series?
I do.
When was that? Because I feel like I would have been watching that like on rewatch or.
See, I'd be saying
it was early to mid 80s.
Yeah, so it must have been a rewatch for me or watching it on VHS.
Yeah, I mean, to me, you see, this is what made us go back to Doctor Who, though, because sometimes these are more slick and everything. But the Fantastic Journey, you had a range of characters, as you can see there, and Roddy McDowell, but you had a younger character and everything. But in the end, the Doctor is so interesting as a character. That's who I wanted. I didn't want a team. And that's where Blake Seven fell down for me in a way, you know. I liked Blake Seven, and it was as good as you get for the time with sci-fi in Britain. But I don't want the ensemble cast. And when we were doing Stolen Earth last night, when you get all the companions, the 6 pilots of the TARDIS, I just want the Doctor. I want the Doctor and the companion. Leave it. I don't need this big team all the time. So the Fantastic Journey tried hard, but never totally won me over because I need that police box and I need that Doctor. There's something about it.
Can I just jump on something in the chat? And that's Cliff Maxwell says the real Battlestar Galactica, and I find that really interesting because I loved Battlestar Galactica, the original series. They only had one series, and then they had that second Galactica 1980 series that was a different cast. It was slightly stranger. But I think I'm not a huge one for remakes, but the remake of Battlestar Galactica, I think, is probably the most successful one to my mind that's ever been. They did that so well, and it changed it completely. Even gender swapped one of the main characters, and I think that worked beautifully. So when you say the real Battlestar Galactica, I see what you're saying. But I do think the remake has its merits too.
Oh, this is going crazy. The time tunnel. I was only a little kid. Yeah, the time tunnel. V's mentioned Sapphire and Steel. My partner's much more into that than me. And Battlestar Galactica. I somehow missed that. I mean, I know I'm a sci-fi freak, but I just didn't really engage with it. Captain
Yeah, it's funny.
Star.
My parents were into the original Battlestar Galactica growing up, and then they got into the remake, and they'd agree with you, Dwayne. They were fans of the remake, but it kind of skipped me. I watched a lot of the new Star Treks through the 90s, given that I grew up mainly through the wilderness years. The shows like Babylon 5 and things in the 90s, that X-Files, things like that. You know, even though I had interest in them and they were current through that period, I think the drip feeding of the Doctor Who VHSs and the constant repeats on the ABC kept me going.
Star Maidens.
Doctor Who has only ever been Doctor Who for me.
Star Maidens. Now,
I don't remember them.
Yeah, Star Cops. I remember Star Cop. So yes, there you go. Just to kind of why do we like Doctor Who? Now we've detoxified, but
Something wrong with us.
Yeah. Now, did you see there was a whole endless amount of tweets the other day? Russell T Davies taking a photograph of them doing the read through of the land. So I always say, get this wrong, the war between the land and the sea. Did you see this? And a few people have tried to guess who's there. They're not totally right. That's not Shooty at the end, I don't think. But I think most of the others I agree with. But what
kind of spy is taking photos like this in current day? Jeez, I mean,
well, it's Russell Davies. Russell Davies put it on his Instagram.
Oh, so he's deliberately teased.
Oh, yes. He said, thrills, chasers, death, fish. So I'm trying not to toxify our chat again. But what I will say, slightly problematic, I suppose, is I looked at the script at the bottom there and it said by Russell T Davies. And I thought, bless him, he's writing too much. Be an overseer, surely. I mean, I think a showrunner might be an interesting idea to be rather than a producer. But just oversee everything. Now, I'm hoping he just writes the first episode just to kind of bed it, because he wrote some of the early Torchwoods, didn't he? And then he let it go. But I don't know what you think. I mean, Russell T Davies, for good and bad, you can be the best writer going, but writing too many episodes of everything just means you're diluted. I don't think you get the kind of, the detail. I don't know. It worries me, really. He's writing too much.
It doesn't excite me anymore to see things like this. I'm just completely indifferent to it. So after what we've had over the last 12 months, I'm just going to wait and see what happens. I'm not excited. I'm not, it doesn't fill me with breathless anticipation. That's for sure.
No, what about you?
Yeah, I'm really surprised that they're doing this show, considering where the season landed. I really hope it's good, and but like you do, Dwayne, after I was really pumped for the season finale, but after the season finale, I really don't. RTD's hyperbole is not going to work on me.
Well, you see, this is it. I mean, it's relevant to our discussion here at the moment. If I just show you this from my saloon the other day, I mean, the point is, look, all I'm saying is he might be overstretched. Any good writer can be overstretched. And then when you see him discussing what he was trying to do, to bring back the classic fans, he brought back Sutek. That was his argument. But I think every Doctor Who fan I know, it didn't work because it wasn't the Sutek we recognised. He changed it to give us stupid words about cultural appropriation and all the rest of it. And then started telling us some crazy stuff. If I get the right page, just saves me time. Here. If I just go big screen in case you've not seen it, I absolutely don't want to create any sort of mythology in which it is said that Sutek was guiding the TARDIS for all those years. I just don't believe that at all. I think it needed the explosion that was big enough at the end of the Star Beast. When the TARDIS kind of goes mad and blows up, that's kind of what woke Sutek up. That's when I get worried that he's overstretched, because it's all it's not pinned down. As we said in our show last night, Russell T Davies, on top of his game, should have everything kind of structured well, sequenced well, everything lands. But I have to say, if you overwrite, doing too much, rushing, spin off here, Tales of the TARDIS there, it's just too much. It's just too much. And then he starts to tell you solutions after the program's been broadcast. Well, I'm sorry, a good writer needs to put it in the script and not explain and unleashed. But yeah, a little bit
Shouldn't
inside.
to explain what you were doing.
No. So here's another bit of news. I don't know if this excites you or not, but just as we kind of tidy up, let's have a look where it is. Here we go. So I don't know if you saw this. It's in various places. I'll pick Deadline for a moment. Disney chief backs Doctor Who was a really good fit after Ncuti Gatwa's first season. They've obviously been at the Edinburgh Fringe. There's always a big TV event there, and you get some nice, tasty interviews sometimes. So Disney has hailed Doctor Who as a really good fit for Disney Plus amid industry chatter over whether its ambitious co-production deal with the BBC has been a success. They're committed to the war between the land and the sea, which I've just shown you, and it gives you the usual blather about what the plot's about. But
I mean, Doctor Who must be a bargain for them, considering, you know, they just burned up 180 million on Acolyte and then had to bin it.
Yeah, I mean, it is a cheaper show, so I suppose you could stick with it longer. Maybe that could be it. I've never been one of those dramatic streamers who says they're going to ditch Doctor Who despite the ratings. I don't. I know there will be a season 3. There'll be some sort of deal done. It's just whether the deal is favourable to Disney is only my conjecture. But anyway, on the surface, and Julie Gardner in the Doctor Who magazine did also say that Disney were happy. The Disney chief did not, however, commit to renewing the co-production deal beyond next year's season. Doctor Who is a fabulous series. Obviously, in the UK, it's fully BBC, rightly so. We take rest of world rights, but really, really happy to have it. I think just the quirkiness of it, the fact that it's that sci-fi world, and when you think about what Disney offers in other regards, I think it feels like a really good fit to me. Now, does that sound like media speak that it's just trying to say nice things to each other, or do you think there is a kind of feeling in the air that we're going to see a season 3 announcement at some point?
This is what it sounds like to when I saw that statement at the end there. I think it feels like a really good fit to me. I mean, it's great to have it. If that's coming from someone from Disney, the first thing I thought of, because we were talking about earlier before we came on the tripods, there's a 40th anniversary convention coming up in the UK next month. I thought of the tripods with that statement because Disney owns the rights to the tripods, and they have it's well known that Disney will buy up rights of things and not even make them, just so that they've got the rights to it and no one else can do it. And the fact that they can't get their hands completely on Doctor Who because the BBC's got their hands on most of it, and they've got the distribution rights. Well, at least it means now that no one else can screen Doctor Who.
Yeah.
So it sounds a bit. That's what it made me think of. Just the fact that they like to monopolize rights for certain things. So yeah, it just sounds like it sounds partly spin, but also there's a bit more in there than it reads, I think.
See, this is where when people say, "Oh, the show needs to be rested, it needs to go off the air, and it needs to come back later," I don't agree with that. The show has proven. To me, it's like Star Trek. If it's not working, you're doing it wrong, and you just need to can the people doing it and find the right people to do it. The formula, we know the formula works. It's not what you're telling me. It got to 62 years and it suddenly died. That doesn't make any sense. The formula works. So, or the show works. The concept works. It just needs the right people to bring it to screen.
I mean, Gareth Morgan here. The War Between the Land and Sea is a micro series. No one will notice it coming or going. It will be cheap. It will look and feel cheap. Do you know, just this morning when I was getting up and I was thinking about this, and I thought, you know, there's rumors that Martha Jones might actually be in it. And then you've got Russell Tovey, the woman who did play Martha Jones' sister, but a different character now, Kate Stewart, blah, 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 blah. And you think, oh, is RTD going to make it global again? So you know, when we had Empire of Death and you just see too much of the globe, poor Australia, you turn to dust. I noticed that on TV. They showed you Australia turning into dust. But when it goes big scale, like when we were talking about Stolen Earth and Journey's End last night, I lose something in the drama. You have to, 3 Daleks, for example, works much better than seeing thousands of Daleks that just CGI disappear. And there's something about this war between the land and the sea that's worrying me, that are they going to go massive scale? Like Martha's in New York, like Stolen Earth. Russell Tovey's in Australia. Somebody's somewhere else. And in the end, you lose that kind of base under siege kind of mentality. That I'm getting a horrible vibe that because you've got money, we'll go location, darling. And I think one location, make it tense. I don't know. I'm just getting worrying vibes that big budget just means more locations rather than doing it right.
That's one of the things
I always liked
Sorry,
Sorry,
mate.
Dan.
No. I was just going to say with Chibnall era, that's one of the things that I found tiresome was where they just kept jumping all over the planet, and you just had the subtitle pop up saying, you know, oh, we're now in South Africa or wherever, and it's just like it didn't add to, for me, it didn't feel real, especially when you knew it was just Cardiff.
I'm seeing the same streets now, actually. What were you going to say, Dwayne?
Well, I always like the fact that Doctor Who is quintessentially British. It always feels British. So home is Britain, the UK. And whenever they go somewhere else in the world, it's almost like a vacation. And so I that's the feeling you always got, particularly in the classic series when they went somewhere else, they were on holidays. And when they went home, they went back to the UK. So not that they say that explicitly, but that's the feeling you always got with it. So I think, yeah, as far as going global, yeah, I would be inclined to say no. I don't think that works for Doctor Who. It doesn't stay true to the ethos of the show.
See, I liked with the Brig and with Unit, even though it was meant to be international, it did quite often feel like he was just talking to the PM and local ministers. I thought, yeah, it felt homespun. Yeah,
but that was I mean, that's I know, and does it look better now with Stark Tower? You know, you just think, you know, even with the Moffat era, Unit was underneath the Tower of London, hidden, but now it's just kind of brassy out there, isn't it? And you think, why would Unit want to say, "Here we are, come and hit us"? I mean, you know,
especially after what happened in Power of the Doctor, it's like, well, strategically, it was proven that having a skyscraper in the middle of a populated area was a bad call.
I know, I mean, because actually when I was doing my research for Stolen Earth, in one of the versions of Russell T Davies was considering the attack on New York, it would obliterate New York, but he stepped back from that for obvious reasons. But we've now got a massive tower in London for Unit, and it must be a prime target in the universe. I mean, how stupid is that? But anyway, there's no logic.
Plus, they built a time window in the middle of the sky. Hey, Lee Smith saying, asking a question, didn't the last Sea Devils show do badly? Yes, if you mean Legend of the Sea Devils, yes, it was a shocker.
Because there weren't Sea Devils. I mean, flying Sea Devils and all this hocus
Super Mario Sea Devils.
Yeah. I just want Sea Devils with a string vest, as somebody said in the thread. Scottish Davos, nice to give you a call out. Hello. See, Brendan, I'm of the old school of thought that a spin-off has to be made on the main show being on strong foundations, which it's not, regardless of the PR spin. Yeah, this is where Torchwood came. You had Tooth and Claw, didn't you? Season 2 of Doctor Who. and then Torchwood was mentioned, and then by the end of season 2, Doctor Who, Torchwood started to happen. This is fast, isn't it? Anyway, we've done it is called a detox hour, and we've gone a bit over the hour, but we're going to kind of try and stick to it because I think sometimes that's how it works. So hopefully we've helped people in Britain with their lunch hour, the Americans with their breakfast, and the Australians with their nighttime beverages before bed. So there you go. I think we've covered everything there. We've said what to ditch and make a nice spruced up Doctor Who universe. Before we go, Dwayne, is there anything you think we could squeeze in that, is there a 2-parter we can squeeze in that pit? You did mention The Awakening, I think.
Yeah, let's go with The Awakening because it's a story that I just cannot stand. I love the idea of it. I find that the stories that I want to throw out are usually ideas that I like, but I'm disappointed when I go in there because I have no idea really what the malice is. It's just some kind of abstract concept that's out there and it's never really explained very well in the story. And it's kind of probably a story that needed 4 episodes actually to kind of flesh it out a bit more. So yeah, The Awakening for me. Chuck it.
Chuck it.
Hey, Brendan, can we just quickly, and if the chat's into it, nominate, if you had to lose a whole season, which season would you lose?
Well, we had somebody say the whole Jodie
whole era. Oh no.
Should I be fair though and say let season 1
should lose the whole era?
Let season 1 just be allowed to kind of ferment, and then before we did, because otherwise I think a lot of people would say, you know what. But
it's season 15.
But if you
14.
Season 14, which one is that
14.
again? Oh, you mean now?
Season 1.
Yeah, well, I'm not allowing that. I'm going to be a funny chair and say, let it ferment for a while. I don't know, just in case. But if you were saying get rid of a season of Doctor Who, it's on what merits, you see, because we mentioned the key to time earlier. If you took the key to time out as a whole season, it wouldn't affect the Doctor Who canon format, would it? So, I'm thinking like that because within a season, there's always a tasty story or two that if you took it out, it would be a wrecker. I mean,
or you could pick an early season story. Most of it's missing anyway. So,
I mean, look, I've got to be honest. I struggle with McCoy's first season. That's one that I just struggle with. I can't help it. I know he's a lovely man and all the rest of it, and they're all trying hard. Fine, but I just struggle with his first season. So I've got to just say that as a truthful fact. Peter Davison's 3, I like. Yeah, the middle one was a bit more boring. We all know that. The 20th, that didn't really happen.
We all know there's one season that should just flux off.
Oh yes, there's that one as well. Well, I can't ditch. I can't preserve season 1 and as anything before that, yes, has fermented enough, hasn't it, Dwayne, for us to have a realistic view. I think when in one of our early streams, we looked at the Sontaran one again, and we looked at the, what else did we look at? The Power of the Doctor that followed the Flux. Nah, I'm happy to chuck Flux in because it's made no sense. It didn't help anything. And I think if you did get rid of it, would it change anything?
And it didn't resolve anything either. All the questions from the Timeless Children were not resolved, really.
So, because Dan reminds me of, when you were a kid and you say to your mum and dad, can I just make some supper and stay up a bit longer? And he asks that question just to stay on a bit longer. No, that's what you do, and you don't want to go to bed, that's all. JWC Reviews says Flux, absolutely incomprehensible, boring tat. I like that. Lucid. Intellectual. No, it's true, JJ.
I don't think it's fair to call it boring. I think it's fair to say that the bloody story doesn't hang together because there's clearly gaps in the writing.
Oh, and it's so rushed. I mean, it's Doctor Who on speed. It's just, but it's just. And why did we have? I've tried to dismiss half the characters. That you had a strange love story almost going on with the lad who was so much better in Game of Thrones. You just had so many bits and
the guy that was in Twin Dilemma that just got shot, just got passed off at the end.
The only likable character in the whole season, and they kill him.
Yeah. David Harding, would ditching the Key to Time series impact Enlightenment? The next appearance of the Black and White Guardians. Well,
Yes.
Yes, it would. Go away, David. No, no, yeah, yeah, no, you're right. You're right. That yes, there's a ripple.
Yeah, I think there's a
right.
Peter Davison era that can go. I'm just trying to figure out which one it is.
A Peter Davison one.
Yeah, definitely.
I found the
Well,
middle.
if you can take out McCoy, I'm taking out a Peter Davison.
Oh, this is it. This is kind of getting revenge. I mean,
You want to take out season 20 except for the 5 Doctors, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I'm up for that. Or 21. What's 20? No, 21 I
Ruthless.
like. There's stuff in there.
I mean, look, I'll be fair. Tom Baker did 7 series, didn't he? And before Leisure Hive, it was getting a bit flabby. We all like this is the trouble. We all like a story or two, but I know the Graham Williams era.
I like it all.
I could lose
Especially
19.
Underworld.
I could lose 19 and just keep Earthshot.
Oh, what? The Visitation? What? Kinder? I like Kinder now more. Time Flight, I know.
Tell her. I can't even say the bloody thing. Tell her that
Pteroleptals.
Yeah, Pteroleptals.
They're fantastic, the Pteroleptals. I loved them. And they're called the Great Fire of London. I'm sorry, it had a ripple effect in real history, so you can't get rid of that. Cliff Maxwell, the formula works, but the formula isn't being adhered to. That's too right. They've deviated from what made it work, and it's not specific personal politics, bite-sized stories, and focus on season arcs. Yeah, I know. It's event TV, but without the content. Claude, good to see you. I think he's on holiday. Who gives a flux? That's a popular choice, isn't it? Lee Smith is the same. Flux. Yes, the Sontaran with the chocolate in the corner shop. What was that about? Vinder. Thanks, JWC Reviews. Yeah, it was Vinder. What was he? Vinder was doing this. Then there was that woman at Tech 2. Do you know, I'm so scared. There's still that shoot in the TARDIS with that fob watch. I'm so scared.
See, I was worried about with the chocolate eating at Sontaran, like, because they don't have bum holes.
Now,
so because they don't eat.
Now, Graham Dawson is pointing out another ripple effect problem. Mary Tam, Romana. Yes, if we ditch that, what do? We can't lose Mary Tam. That's too important because she set up the proper Romana. Really, I mean, she was a strong.
If you throw the key to time in the pit, you may as well throw me in with it. That's as simple as
that. No, let's just take out Peter Davison in season 20 and then accept the 5 Doctors. And
barring the 5 Doctors.
Yeah, no, it's McCoy's first season. Scottish now is Scottish Davos on my side or not? Let's just check. McCoy's era never truly starts till Dragonfire, in my opinion. The rest of the season 24 feels very Colin. So he's half agreeing with me. That doesn't win me the argument. Anyway, there you go. Does that keep you up for a few more minutes, Dan, before bed?
Yeah, we can go to bed now.
I know. It was that classic. I was telling my mum the other day that if my mum was out with her friends, we'd say to Dad, her Wi-Fi was on. Come on, can we make toast, please? Can we just make toast? Don't tell your mum. It was Hawaii 5.0, Canon, anything like that. Armchair Thriller. Does anyone in Britain remember Armchair Thriller? And you saw
Boomer Doug saying get rid of season 12 because that's the Timeless Child season.
Oh, okay. I thought he meant season 12 from Tom Baker.
No. He's saying Timeless Child season.
And then what does Cliff Maxwell say? The Malice is exactly that. This is the Awakening, wasn't it? The Malice. Yeah, it wasn't a good one. The big face and everything. It was all a load of nonsense. I didn't like that. So, thank you, lads. It looks as though bed beckons, and then more streaming. You'll see Dwayne later on our friend Type 40. And
could I just say that that I've just dropped an episode on the Sirens of Audio channel as well with your friend Michael Herbert was joined me to talk about his forthcoming book, and we also talk a little bit in depth on the Doctor Who and the Cave Monsters audio book by Malcolm Hulk. So you can check that out if you want a bit of Mac Hulk goodness.
No, certainly, because yes, he's well researched, obviously, as the biographer of Malcolm Hulk, and we've had him on, as you know, a few times, and he's been great, and he'll be on again. So I know he'll have given his money's worth to you, and lots of
Yep, he did.
detail and a good chat. And I think
Sorry, Dwayne, I didn't realise you need your beauty sleep to get onto type 40 that time.
Yeah. Well, you've been
I
keeping.
thought you were doing that on purpose, trying to keep me up.
Yeah.
I thought you'd just done another stream earlier. I didn't realise you.
No, I'll have Dan Hadley texting me saying, "Get off my guests. What's going on?" What's
Be talking rubbish at that time of the morning.
Anyway, it is your midnight hour soon. So have a good night, lads, and thanks for being on, and thanks to the thread, and we'll do it again very soon. See you later, everyone.
Bye.